Hi friends, in this video I'm going to cover how you can convert array to a list. So array, if you know, it's data structure that is uh, defined with size. So there's a fixed size for the array, but the list is more or less is like a dynamic array. So you can keep changing, you can keep adding more and more elements to the list, and it doesn't have like the bounded context. I mean, like you can add more and more elements to it. It's more of as it is a dynamic array. So we're gonna see like how we can convert an array to a list. That's the goal of this tutorial. So let's start with the main method and let's create the first option, like how we can convert the array to a list. So I'm expecting the, let's say, int array as an input, and I will be returning the list of integer. Since the in the collection API you cannot pass the primitive type, we have to basically cast it to the from primitive to the object. That's why we're using the integer and the list. So let's see the first option to convert the integer array to the list. So first of all, what we can do is we can always stream the array. If you're using like Java 8 and beyond, you can stream over the integer array, and then you can convert that to a box type like integer. So all you have to do is like to the arrays.stream, use that function and stream your int array to the convert your integer array to the streams of integer, and then you have to box it because we need to basically typecast to the integer object instead of the primitive. So while we have that, we can now receive this stream of integer to the list. So the very first thing is that we can do this collect.collector to list. If we do this, the output that we get is list of integer, and that's going to be an output. And we can even like avoid defining this and just return it, since we need to return the output. So that's the simplest option, number one, where we could just basically stream over the integer array. We convert that to a primitive into the integer object type, and then we collect that into a list and then return it. So Streams API makes it very easy to write this logic, and we don't have to do all this imperative style. It's more of like declarative and functional paradigm that we're using over here. There is so the data type that is returned from this approach is mutable. So basically the list that is returned from this option is mutable. So basically we can add, for example, let's say we have the array 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm gonna define that integer array. Let's call it x here for now, and that's the data. And the return is going to be list of integer. Okay, the integers that we got over here, let's call it x list. The x list that we got here, we can basically add more elements to this, right? And if I print the size of x list, you see it's increased by 1 because the list that return is mutable. So the size should be 5. Here we go. So basically this list that is returned using this option number 1 is mutable. Basically we can change the list. So let's say we want to return the immutable list. So how can we do that? So that's what we're gonna do into the next option. We're gonna list of integer option. Let's call this option 2, and we have this same parameters passed to it. What we can do is that we can just use option number 1, pass the input. That's gonna give us what? That's gonna give us like modifiable list, right? So if I say this is going to be our modifiable list, but then the collections class, this is part of Java utils, provides us the unmodifiable list option. So we basically have to pass that to the unmodified list method, and the result would be immutable. So let's try to add something to this. Now if we try to add something to this, we'll get the error saying that really we should do this here. Modifiable list option 2 pass x, or maybe we don't need to even pass this. Oh yeah, wait, pass this option 2, and this is what going to be the return type, and add it. And now if we try to do this, we'll get the error at this spot. So let's verify that. So it says unsupported operation exception. So basically we have converted our modifiable list to the unmodifiable list. That means we got the immutability guarantee over here, and we can return the immutable list like passing to the unmodifiable list method. So that's the other option where we basically convert the mutable list to the immutable list. There's a other approach as well to get the immutable list. So in Java 9, there was a method added. We'll just copy paste real quick the method name and call it, let's say, option 3. So in Java 9, there was a method that was added. So let's first do this arrays.stream pass input and box type. Then there's a method called toList. This method added on the stream of elements. So when you do this, it basically returns the list which is immutable. So if you try to add the element to this list, it's going to throw error. So let's try that. And pass x here, return the immutable list dot add before, and that should result in exception. So let's see. is unsupported operation. So this is also one of the but to make sure that this method works on the JDK, this one is only added in Java 16. So we have to make sure that that JDK version is there. Next option is we use the list of method. Let's call it option 4 for now. Returns the list of integer, gets the input, return the, we can do the same thing. We get the box type and we can convert to the, so there's a so the method that for now let's keep it as it is, and the method that I'm talking about here is that there's a method called list of. This one is part of Java 9, and what it does is that it takes the list of it takes the element. It can take vararg, or it can take a different implementation of it. So one of, like, you can pass 1 element, 2 element, 3 element, or multiple elements, or array of elements. It can also take varargs. So what we can do is that we can convert the box to array, and we can define the type that we are expecting. So this will basically gives us the integer array. We are doing nothing but converting it from the primitive to the object type. And the reason we are doing is because the list is collection, right? So it always work on the object type and not on the primitive. So what we can do is, like, we can just, if we try to pass this to the list here, use the list of integer, and it takes it as a vararg type. So we can, instead of assigning the variable, we can just return it here and get that working here for x. And we are testing if it's gives us the immutability, so we can do the same thing here. And add 434 to this and see if it still throws the error. As you can see, it still throws the error. So that makes it an immutable list. Then, so yeah, that's it for this tutorial. I hope you liked it. If you liked it, consider subscribing it. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for your time.